Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 48 of Material Issues. I'm Mark Hershberger, Pop Detective Records, and joining me as usual from the West Coast, my good friend from the International Pop Overthrow Festival, Mr. David Bash. How you doing tonight, David?
I'm doing great, Mark. How are you?
Fantastic on a beautiful, beautiful Wednesday evening here in South Jersey. Temperatures are approaching 65, but we're going to be in the 70s the next few days as I have a new little doggy friend coming to visit Ched's for 5 days. So I'm happy that no rain is in the forecast. And
Yeah, I'll bet.
blast the music, walk the dogs, enjoy life in general.
Well, no rain in the forecast, but fortunately, IPO in the forecast starting
That,
on Friday in Chicago at Montrose Saloon for 9 days, 12 shows.
wow, 9 days, 12
Yeah,
shows.
I know. Well, that's what, Chicago is a hotbed of the kind of pop we showcase. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'm really looking forward to it, as always. And pardon me. And I'd like to thank Montrose Saloon very much for having us. It'll be our first year there. And yeah, all very cool. Great, great people. And yeah, just looking forward. I fly in tomorrow early, and my flight
Nice.
leaves at like 10 after 6. Hey guys, I'm not sure. Is this Andy? Maybe I don't know.
No, Andy usually pops up with his name. I'm not sure who
Well,
this is.
last time he commented it wasn't him. So
Oh, well, whoever it is, hi. Good to see you.
I mean,
Thanks for joining in.
let me amend that. I haven't slept much. It was him, but his name wasn't. He wasn't identified by his name.
Ah, okay. Well, we love it when people check in and say hi in the comments. Tonight's going to be a little bit different. Not what we had planned. You want to expound on that,
And
David?
it's all on me. I've been communicating with Louise Goffin's assistant. She handles Louise's schedule, and I think she asked me for the time and date a few times, and one of those times I aired and said the show was on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. I guess that was the time she chose to give Louise. And so Louise was expecting to be on 3 hours earlier than we actually were, and she has another commitment at this time. So unfortunately, we have to reschedule, and we'll see when that happens. I'll definitely let everybody know.
Yeah. So tonight, Louise isn't going to join us, but she will be hopefully here in the near future. It was just a scheduling conflict. So tonight it is the David and Mark show. Barry just checked in. He said, can't wait for Liverpool.
Hey,
Nice.
Barry. Yeah, me neither. It'll be great to see you.
Yeah, David's got a bunch of things going on, but Chicago coming up. Who's playing Chicago? Anybody of note?
Well, all kinds of bands of note. If you go to internationalpopoverthrow.com and navigate to the Chicago schedule page, you'll see. But obviously, the most notable band is the Figs, and I can't take credit for them. The venue got them.
Nice.
But we've never had them at IPO, and it'll be great to have them. And the iconic power pop band 3 Hour Tour, and Phil Angotti, and Mike Jarvis from the Lack Loves and Blow Pops, his new band Elephonic, which is a little bit more symphonic than psychedelic, but it does have Mike's songwriting touch. And
wow.
So it's going to be good. And then just all kind more than 60 great act. Oh, the Spindles, absolutely.
Nice.
Spindles have played IPO many times, and we really are, we're really grateful for that, of course. That's got to be Mr. Borak. Only he would say that.
Wayne Newton should have had his first child named Fig.
Right. The Figs are touring with Wayne Newton. Dates to be announced. Get it? Dates, Fig.
All right. That was pretty good. I got to hand it to you on that one. That's funny. Well, good. I hope Chicago goes well. That's
Thank you.
Starting Friday night for 9 days. So anybody in the greater Chicago area or anybody that feels like flying in, IPO Chicago starting Friday night. Fantastic.
Yeah, and I have to give a shout out to Terry Hackbars of Bullseye Records, not Jamie Vernon's label, but a record store in Milwaukee. He's going to be playing in one of the bands called Cabin Essence. They're going to be coming Sunday afternoon to play IPO Chicago. And out of the goodness of his heart, he said, any record store day stuff you want, just let me know and I'll bring it down for you. Because I don't know if I'm going to be able to go to record store day. I've done it a few times when I've been in Chicago. That's usually the week that it happens. And, I'm usually just too exhausted to even go. So
yeah,
it's very kind of him to offer to do that. And I gave him my list, and it appears that they're going to have most of it. So
nice. With record store day, it pays to know somebody. It's a tough haul when you're just bouncing from store to store trying to find certain things that you want, because they don't make a whole lot of them. So
right.
I generally, I don't know. Sometimes there's something I got to have, and I'll get in line.
Borak also. He just hit us with a Joe Pepitone book reference. Pretty clever one.
A clever one, yeah.
Yeah, it comes out of your willy. Actually, John will get that, and others will be able to glean from context, like you, I'm sure, did.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you know what? Let's show that device, Mark, that you showed me earlier.
Oh, well, now I was talking to David earlier. My daughter's moving to Florida, my oldest, to join my youngest daughter. And, back in 79, 80, whatever it was, when I got my first cassette Walkman, you had a cassette. What did a cassette hold? 60 minutes, sometimes 90 minutes if you're whatever.
Yeah, most of the ones I had were 90.
60 or 90,
You didn't want to go over that. You start using 120 minutes cassettes, right, and they were prone to breaking.
So you could get a couple of albums on a cassette on both sides. Well, now she gave me a couple hundred CDs, maybe 300 CDs, and she's got more in her collection. And with a 128 gigabyte SD card for this little thing, this thing could hold, I don't know, 100,000 songs. It's going to hold all 300 CDs she gave me without even making a dent in the SD card. So everything that she'll have can be Bluetooth from here to her car speakers, or with a little RCA jack if you want, all in this little device. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So first, let me comment that when Walkmans were around in the early 80s, if you had made this statement to people back then, there would have at least been 15 words that they wouldn't have understood.
Yeah.
Yes, Kurt, I know Laurie's. I'll be hitting that. I'll certainly be hitting Dusty Groove, which is my favorite record store in Chicago. And there is a new one new in 2019 that I went to last time I was there. I don't remember its name, but it was a fairly striking name. So I think if I see it on Google or something, I'll remember it. But it was good also. But yeah, Laurie's a cool place.
Wow,
definitely.
Yeah, it's amazing what these SD cards can hold as far as music is concerned. She can take her entire collection, and I've always said, I put so much of my stuff onto SD cards because I'll when I'm walking the dog. I have little tiny players. I have one that's this size also, but most of mine come in like the old iPod type size. But they're all, you can put different SD cards in if you want. But I'll tell you what, if my house caught on fire, all I have to do is grab a couple of my players, and I'll have all my music that I've ever owned in digital, format.
Yeah, I know. It's a great idea, and I should do the same.
Yeah, it makes it easy. If I get a new CD and I don't have time to just sit here listening to it in my office or wherever it may be, dump it to the MP3 player or whatever, and carry it with you anywhere. And
how long does it take to dump a CD onto an MP3 player?
30 seconds.
Yeah,
it kind of really, depending on your program that rips it and burns the digital files, 30 seconds, a minute, maybe tops.
30 seconds, a time Mark Hershberger is very accustomed to.
Yes, I strive for 30 seconds.
Like Danny Bonaduce said about his first time with one of David Cassidy's leavings, by the way. He said, I gave her the best 30 seconds of her life.
Yeah, no, she wants me to put all stuff on her because she'll be driving to Florida with I guess her mom is going with her and her two dogs after everything's put into a shipping container and shipped to Florida. So she can listen to anything and everything that whole way down, which is very cool.
That is cool. And speaking of listening to things, I wanted to talk about some 2022 releases that I've been enjoying immensely. And again, if I leave anybody out who's watching, it's this isn't meant to be all inclusive. These are just a few that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, and once again, Louise Goffin couldn't join us tonight, so we will reschedule her in the near future. But it's going to be David and I talking. So if you want to drop a comment and get involved, please do. We're here tonight, just having a good time.
Absolutely. One band is there's the banner. Okay. Yeah, one band who has been getting a bit of a buzz, mostly in the UK, but I have a feeling soon in the US, is a UK band called Buzzard. I don't know the origin of the name. Maybe it's obvious. Maybe it's a line from a movie or a book.
I don't know.
But I have no idea. And as you can see by the photo, they're young. They're pretty young. And this album is called Backhand Deals, and it's on vinyl and CD. It came out about a month ago, I guess, in physical form. I think it had been digital a little bit before. Yeah, these guys kind of have a little bit of a Jellyfish vibe, just your basic young person's pop vibe, but with those 70s influences. And they're very, very talented. Can't remember the name of the lead singer right now, but it's this guy, and he's awesome. And the band's really tight. I'd like to say they remind me of The Feeling, because back in the early, back when we started Liverpool in 2003, The Feeling were just starting to happen in the UK. I wish we had caught them a little earlier so we could have had them an IPO. Right. But by the time I knew about them, they were already on Universal and, big band. That was one of the last really young bands that I thought, these guys get the 70s. They sounded a lot like 10cc and Supertramp and, but with, again, a little bit of a modern feel. This doesn't sound quite like that. It's not quite as well produced, but it's really good. I would recommend it. It's going to be hard to find, I think, in the US. I had to order it from, actually, wait a minute. Now that I think of it, I think I had a hard time ordering it from Amazon US, and then finally it showed up. Like one day it showed up, said only 2 left. It's like, all right, I'm getting it. So check on Amazon. It might be there. If not, Amazon UK. If you happen to be in the UK, that's very convenient.
And let me ask you a question, David, while you're talking about a band like Buzzard. Where did you initially hear about them? Did somebody tell you about them, or how did you figure that out? Because I'm always fascinated sometimes when you say, "Hey, look at this new band," and I've never heard anything about it or where you might have even heard it from. And you obviously have people that turn you on to things, and
people turn me on to things. And I also check out the power pop folders quite a bit. Obviously, the bands who play IPOs, I hear about albums that way. In this particular case, and I wish I remembered who to credit, but I believe somebody posted about them in one of the power pop groups. I don't remember which. I don't remember who. I know Jeff Shelton posted about them after I knew who they were. So he's probably to be thanked by a lot of people who heard of them right then. But Jeff has his finger on the pulse of a lot of stuff also. But I know somebody else posted before that. I think. Either that or Spotify recommended them. I don't remember, but
that's what I was going to say. So if someone says to you, David, you got to hear this new band, Buzzard. They have a Jellyfish feel. They have a whatever 70s vibe or whatnot. What's the first thing you do? Do you go check out on Spotify or YouTube or
Usually
Bandcamp?
Bandcamp.
Bandcamp.
If it's because that's usually the easiest link to find. If it's not there, then I go to Spotify.
Right. And
If it's not there, YouTube.
People talk about the digital world having killed music and vinyl and all that kind of stuff. But you know what? If it wasn't for online and the digital world and people mentioning via social media or emails or things, you would not have gone out to a digital world like Bandcamp or whatever, Spotify, listened to it and said, hey, I like this, and purchased the CD,
No doubt about it. And a lot of people think I'm against digital files and all that. Not at all. Mm-hmm. I just don't want that to be the only way you can get music.
Right.
But as far as like being an intro to it, and as far as turning people onto it, I think it's great.
Yeah.
I would never want it to be abolished in any form.
Well, and the beauty of it is, as you said, like you don't want it to be the only way you get music, because we know how much we love the physical form, holding the album, holding the CD, reading the booklets, the liners. When I was sitting here last night with my daughter, we were having dinner, and she was giving me her little player and the SD cards and her CDs. She was going through her CDs, and she was almost getting emotional because these were CDs, because a lot of them were in digital format or whatever, or they were packed away, that she was holding and going, Dad, I just really, really love being able to hold the CD.
That's awesome.
And she looks at it and she's going, like, you can see this, Dad, and she'll open it up, and the booklet in here is great. And it was a neat moment that she and I were having, sitting here talking about. And then I would reach over to my collection here and go, hey, and you remember whenever we used to play this? And it would be like, tennis, Here Comes the Coast Guard or something. And she's, even though she's 27 years old, the song like that from a long time ago. And you and I were talking about Tommy 16 earlier with Baby's Got and those things. Man, when Hannah was 8 years old, she knew the lyrics of the whole album, and she would sit there and hold the CD. So it's a wonderful thing to have the physical to hold on to, just like books. You'd hate books to only come out on Kindle,
Right. All I have to say about that is hold the CD, woman. It's and it is woman, not whoa. Yeah. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that, but
I found that out at a Zombies concert.
Okay. All right.
Rod Argent, who loves to talk in between songs, let me tell you. He told me that. And I mean, that's just one of those things everybody thought was whoa.
Yeah.
Now that I listen to it, I can hear a woman. But
as talking in between songs, I just saw Delamitri a couple of nights ago here in Philadelphia. Great concert. They haven't been in the U.S. in 25 years. I'm a huge Delamitri fan. But I'll tell you what, Justin Curry says virtually nothing in between songs. He'll walk up and go, this was off one of our albums. And then he'll play the song, But then he'll post on his road blog how much he loves Philadelphia, loved the venue, loves, as opposed to other places that he wasn't as crazy about. And so he's very, effusive online, but live and in person, he doesn't want to say much.
Yeah, I mean, I think when people go to a show, some people prefer that because it means they'll be able to play more songs. And other people say, well, this is a live setting. I want some personality out of these people.
Right.
In my opinion, Rod Argent probably goes a bit overboard.
Oh, there you go, Barry.
Okay. But I think there's room to say a few things.
Well, the most Justin said is after he screwed the lyrics up to "Always the Last to Know," he goes, "Yeah, you play a song for 40 fucking years, you'd think you know the lyrics or something."
All somebody has to say on stage is "fucking," and the place goes wild anyway.
It was funny because the band went the right direction. It was during like the middle eight or whatever, and he just he played the wrong notes. He didn't know where to go vocally. It took him a couple measures to catch up, and he had a little smirk on his face, but you don't get a whole lot of emotion out of him. But it was a great time, great show.
Good.
So back to the physical. Talked about some more physical.
Another brand new record. Well, this is newer than Buzzard, Buzzard, Buzzard. Is the new one by Seth Swirsky.
Oh yeah,
Slumped on the Green Couch.
Yep.
I know that some people don't agree with him politically, and Seth is very outspoken about that. But again, whether or not you agree with him, if you're a pop fan, it's really impossible to deny that the guy's just uber talented.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And just really nice, soft melodies, Beach Boys influence, Beatle influence. He has a very pleasant voice. He writes great hooks. This is a beautiful album. That's probably the best word I can use to describe it. It doesn't rock a whole lot, but again, if you like albums like Pet Sounds, for example, or some of the soft pop of the late '60s, then this album is for you. It's on Lollipop Records. Shout out to Y. Blair, who runs that label. As you may remember, Lollipop was the label who put out the Red Locust album last year.
Oh yeah.
Which was Rick Springfield. And Rick was always very coy when people would ask him about the album. He'd say, well, I kind of helped out some friends. And the liner notes don't mention anything about him. But he always has kind of this sheepish grin when he says that. If you look on YouTube, you can see a few videos where he doesn't exactly come out and say that it's his band. I know who said that too. Well, that this could either be John Borak or Jordan Oates, because those are the kind of things he would say. Yeah, we get it. No, actually, whoever said that, I was biding my time listening to it a few days ago. I'd have to say it does. All right.
Let's get Barack to the CDs you're talking about.
Yeah. I know John is a little sensitive about that. But this is a really cool one. An Ohio artist, Dave Cope and the Sass, with an album called Julie. Now, this is I have to pat myself on the back a little bit for this, but I'm really glad that he followed my suggestion. Dave sent me his previous album a few months ago, and womp womp, yeah. Dave sent me his previous album a few months ago, and along with that, he sent me some CDRs of stuff he'd recorded but not released. And one of them was this album, Julie, which he had done a few years ago. And I listened to that and I said, Dave, this is the best stuff you've ever done. I said, it needs to come out.
Yep.
Oh, Philly. Yeah. Why did I say Ohio?
Yeah.
Strike that. I've been having a lot of senior moments lately, Barry. I got Rob Henrit and Rob Halford confused on my interview with Aaron Kupferberg. I sent the wrong time zone to Louise Goffin's assistant, and now I have the wrong city. So I'm 63, man. I'm getting old. Getting old, they say. No, I'm old.
Yeah.
Anyway, I heard that record and I thought this is incredible. And I said, you really ought to contact Ray from Cool Cat Recordings, because he loves stuff like that. He loves releasing things that might be a couple of years old that maybe it only seen digital release and that's it. And so I hooked them up, and Ray agreed to do it, and here it is on Cool Cat Records.
Nice.
This is a wonder. Look, the title song reminds me of, the title song reminds me a lot of the Gripwees, and then some of the other ones have a really strong Emmett Rhodes, maybe a little Harry Nilsson to them. A wonderful songwriter. I mean, this one's a cut above a lot of your standard pop fare. So it's on Cool Cat. It's called Julie, Julee. It just came out. I really, to quote Bruce Brodeen, extremely highly recommend it.
Let me ask you something though. Since we just are jokingly talking about getting old, and we're both, we'll never see 60 again. Do you think, looking back on, say, the last 30 years, do you think your tastes in certain music that turn really turn you on, so to speak? Like, whoa, you think it's changed a little bit? And because power pop has
Great question.
different sounds and things to it, and different things that make you feel differently. And maybe 30 years ago, you might have jangled or rocked harder. I find myself, with something a little different, like orchestrated, some orchestral pop turns my screws a little bit harder now. What do you think?
No, my palette has broadened, and it's also narrowed in certain respects.
Right.
And I would say for sure 50 years ago that would apply. Like 50, no, maybe 40 in the early 80s. Back in those days, there were major labels were putting out a lot of good stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and now they're not. If I see if I see something is on a major label, I tend to have a certain bias that I try to separate myself from when listening to records, but I think I'm sort of primed not to like them. Like I'm looking more for what I won't like than what I will. Like, oh yeah, it's that vocal, it's
Yeah.
that, it's that. I wish I could. What was the word I used to use for it? Um, it's a vocal that indicates that the artist is trying too hard.
Right. Okay.
Uh, they're trying too hard to be commercial. The production is too slick. There aren't enough chord changes. They got those stupid whoa choruses, which drive me up the freaking wall. Every time I hear one of those on a song or on a record or on a song on a commercial, I just want my head to explode.
Right.
So I think back. Yeah, why not? And I think back in the 80s, I wouldn't have had that bias. So I think there are things that came out back then that I probably wouldn't like now. But I still like because they've imbued themselves into my
Right.
gray matter in a positive way. But and on the other hand, I think there's stuff back then that I wouldn't have liked now. I think ironically, since I mentioned that kind of voice that just grates on me, I think there are certain voices that may not be as technically proficient as they needed to be back in the day,
Right.
that now I can handle better.
Yeah.
A lot of the power pop guys, even they would admit that they don't sing as well as some of the guys from back in the day that were huge, but I certainly enjoy those kind of voices. I enjoy indie rock voices now a little bit more than I used to. I enjoy, and again, I enjoy the DIY ethos of things. I think that's another thing. I think back in the late 70s, if some of the albums that are coming out now were to have come out then, I would have said this sound quality is awful. I can't deal with it. Not in every case. I mean, like Black Vinyl Shoes, for example, came out back then. That was just done on a 4-track at home, and it doesn't sound all that good technically, but those are such great songs, and I love Shoes' vocals, so that overcame it. But other ones just probably wouldn't have back then.
Now, when you search out something online, Spotify or whatever, or if somebody sends you a CD or things like that, how important is it that the first track or two really grabs you? And if the first track or two that you listen to, or even listen to snippets of it, doesn't ring your bell, do you continue through tracks 3 through 10 or 3 through 12, hoping to find something better? I find
Great question.
I find many times it's very, 1 or 2 tracks in, I'm guilty of it. Sometimes I'm like, no, this is not gonna. But then I may revisit it, and track 3 all of a sudden makes me go, holy cow! Where was I?
Well, you know what? This reminds me of something an A&R person told me back in probably the mid '90s, when major labels were still around, and A&R people were going around scouting bands to potentially sign them, especially out here in LA. They said, if you send us and back then it was mostly tapes, if you send us a tape, you better hit us within the first 15 seconds, because we just don't have time to go through your whole thing. So if you don't grab us right away, we're probably going to pop the thing out of the player.
Right. And, and I've listened to material from a lot of artists that the first track you go, why is that track number one? Obviously it's their own personal choice and things, but many times it doesn't grab me right away and it doesn't make me go, holy cow. But then track number 2, 3, 4, fantastic and totally different than track number one. And I go, what was the thinking behind that? Which is probably a pretty good podcast. What was the thinking behind that? And
actually, I think I posted something like that on Facebook, because when we were DC Tune Time. Okay. Yeah. Melody certainly supersedes everything. That's the ethos of International Pop Overthrow and in my own personal taste. But let me get back to the question, because it had a few layers for me. I have noticed that, back when we were growing up, when you bought an album, the first track was almost always the one that the artist wanted you to hear the most. It was always the one that was considered to be the best possible single.
Right.
I mean, even on FM radio, when DJ was inclined to play the first track before anything else, so you had to hit them hard. Maybe it's because labels are a thing of the past. Maybe it's because people are thinking more about individual songs than they are albums. Right. So when they put albums together, they don't really have a certain concept behind it. I don't know, but I agree with you. I'm finding it to be less and less the case that the first song is the best. And sometimes it's not even nearly as good as some of the ones after that. So,
which is interesting, as you said, back in the day with major labels and even mid majors and things. You had to come out of the gate because you wanted to sell not only that first track, the possible single, but the whole album. Maybe nowadays, with everything being the flavor of the week and just single oriented, that they promote whatever single is, whether it's track number 7 or track number 2 or number 1, but it doesn't really matter what track order to a lot of these bands.
No, I really don't think it does. I think also because maybe they think that people will listen to stuff. They're not going to listen to the album directly through, but they'll listen to things randomly or whatever. They just don't think about that as much. Back in the day, that was never. You had a record, you were going to put the needle down at the beginning. You always were.
Right.
So. Yeah, no doubt that that's a past phenomenon. So to answer your question, do I, if the first track's not as good, do I keep listening? Or not very good, I should say. Oh, it depends on a lot of things. A, how much time I have. B, what kind of mood I'm in. C, who recommended it. And I would have missed out on a few really good albums. I'll give you one example. One of my favorite albums from last year, Ryan Hamilton's 1221, which interestingly is going to be a Record Store Day release on vinyl. And Terry from Bullseye said that was the one thing that he knew they didn't have. And I have a feeling that one might be a tough one to get. It's probably going to be kind of regional in the Texas area where he's from. The first 3 songs honestly sounded to me like he was making a plea to be signed by a major label. They just didn't have his usual power pop hooks. The production had a little bit too much sheen. There was a little bit on at least one of the songs of that background vocal that I told you I don't like, the whoa. And I was thinking, God, did he, is he selling out? Well, from track 4 on to the end, it was vintage Ryan Hamilton.
Right. Okay.
And I mean, in his case, I knew who he was, and I knew that I loved some of his previous releases, so I gave it a shot. But had he been a new artist and that happened, I would have given up after track 1, and I probably never would have heard the guy again, unless somehow somebody said, "Oh, you got to listen to this track."
Right.
But otherwise, I might have just missed out on it. So yeah, I reckon. Look, if you're going to put out an album, whether or not these are collections of old songs, or songs you released as singles for the past 12 months or whatever it is, try and lead off with your best record, your best foot forward. You really want to grab the listener, I think, because as we said, if we listen at the wrong time, we're just not going to go through it if the first track's not your good work. So but you really hit on something. That is a phenomenon that, and I wish I could remember, because I posted about this on Facebook. I don't think I couched it in the same terms you did, but that subject was intertwined with whatever it was I was saying, and some artists had a response as to why they did that, and I wish I remembered what it was. This was a couple of years ago, and I don't, but I don't buy it. Whatever it was, I remember thinking, no.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, and as I said, I'm very guilty of that. Even with things that come recommended, and maybe I've heard some snippets, and if I get the CD in or the vinyl in, and I put that first track on, and as you said, mood wise, if I'm not in the right mood or I'm not in whatever the right headspace, I might listen to a first track and go, and move on to the next.
Well, I mean, we are older. I don't know what kids do these days. I don't know how much they even care about albums, but how often do I get asked to pick a track for an IPO CD as opposed to just being sent one? I get asked quite often, actually. I think one reason might be because they feel too close to their own tracks. They don't necessarily know which one they think is the right one. I would imagine as an artist, you feel like the tracks are like your children, and you don't want to pick one over another. Sometimes it's hard to do. So, that puts the onus on me, and I'm very happy to do it, because obviously I want to enjoy the IPO CD as much as I can. So I'll often ask for the artist's best track. It happens quite a bit, and I'm very thankful when it does for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I'll even ask, would you like me to choose one? And an artist will say, yeah, I really would.
Cool.
So I don't have a particular percentage. It's probably I'd say about 40% of the artists ask me to choose. And like I said, always happy to do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, and this year's IPO CD is shaping up quite well. We have 39 tracks so far. Wow. Obviously we're looking for somewhere in the mid 60s, but our deadline's not for over a month. So I think we'll get there. I certainly hope so. Speaking of a band who's going to have a track on the IPO CD, this is a new album by Amoeba Teen, which is on Big Stir. Yeah, I figured that, Andy. Now I know it's you.
Yeah.
What's going on with? I'm suddenly receiving a whole bunch of texts that I received earlier. So maybe that means that my
phone is being reconfigured. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, this is a band from Stourbridge, UK, who is playing IPO Liverpool. I love this band, but I really love this album, and I want to thank the people at Big Stir for putting it out.
Nice.
It's self-titled, and it's definitely their best work. Some really stylish power pop is the best way I can put it. If you like power pop with that sort of UK sophistication, definitely check this band out. Brand new on Big Stir, Amoeba Teen. I don't remember which album of theirs this is. It might be their third, but don't quote me on that. Here's another guy, and this guy I believe really is from Ohio. M. Ross Perkins.
Yeah, that's a really good album. Yeah,
oh, you know this one, okay?
Yeah. We you had mentioned it somewhere. Maybe
Did I mention it on another? Oh, maybe, you know what? Strike that. I did the last time when we had the technical issues with Denny Sewell, or Denny Sywell, we you
mentioned that. I immediately
that, and then we went off on a tangent, and that was it. So
there's one right there. You mentioned it. You highly recommended the darn thing. I went out, I listened to a couple things on Spotify or Bandcamp, one of those, and bought the album right away. And really, really, really good album. Yeah, yeah, highly.
Yeah, it really is. And speaking of good albums, our good friends at Spider Pop Records,
Yeah, yeah.
Lanny Flowers, Flavor of the Month. I'm sure a lot of listeners here already know who Lanny is, but in case you don't, he and his band are from the Kennedale, Arlington, Texas area. There you are. This is an album of remix singles that I had mentioned. Some bands will put out their singles first and then compile them on a new album. This is what they did. Only these are remixed, so that if you did happen to purchase the singles, you're going to want this as well. Yeah. Oh, there you go. And am I right, Barry? He is from Ohio. I want you to confirm that, so at least I'm not totally crazy. Anyway, Spider Pop has a really cool roster of artists like Bill Lloyd and Chris Church and tons of other ones. But not obviously, but Lanny has. I mean, I have to say, no disrespect to anyone else on the label, but he's my favorite, and this is definitely one of his best records. I think when I reviewed it, I said if there could be such a thing as sanguine power pop, this is it. Lanny is probably the most easygoing guy that I've ever known. He's very modest. He speaks very softly, doesn't talk a whole lot. He only says things when he feels they're appropriate. He's just that kind of guy. He's almost like, this is going to come off wrong, but I'm going to say it. He's like if Deputy Droop-Along was like way more intelligent than he is. He just has sort of that laconic drawl. Thank you, John Borak.
It's lumber-esque.
Sanguine power pop. God, I was hoping a quick response.
You got nothing when it comes to Manny Sanguine. I got nothing.
I was just thinking, is there a power pop band with a Manny in there, or even Manny in their name? And how about man in their name? I'm blanking right now. This is what happens when you have no sleep. Anyway, it's on Spider Pop. It's great. You need it. Blah 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 blah. Here's another really fun one, and I know that this one has been creating a buzz around the Facebook power pop folks. Trevor Blendur. Do you know this one?
Yeah, no, you recommended that one as well at some point.
I?
Yeah,
I think I thought I only talked about the M. Ross, but maybe I didn't.
I think you talked about that one too, because I went out and was all over that one too. And I had asked you, I said I had asked you, is that guy really young? And I think you said he's not as young as.
He's not as young as he looks. He's been playing with an Iowa band called Surf Zombies, who played IPO a few years ago and do what you would think they would do. Some surf music with a little bit of a Halloween vibe to it, but this is just pure power pop and just really engaging. And he swung at everything. That's for sure. I mean,
whole lumber company did, yeah.
I think Manny Sanguine may have walked less than almost anybody who ever played.
Oh yeah,
I mean, he hit 300 with a 310 on base percentage.
Yeah, those guys from the Pirates, the opposing pitcher, when they, before the days of standing up and throwing the pitches really far outside to automatically walk them, they automatically tried to throw outside, but they would swing at pitches 3 feet off the plate just to try to hit the ball.
Yeah, I'll bet back then some pitchers said, "Can you just let him go to first?" Even if I throw wide pitches, he may hit one, into the gap for a double. So,
but don't they do that nowadays? They just go like that, and
they can now. But back then, I'm sure a lot of pitchers when he came up.
But now we're getting back into our baseball arguments. I'm totally against that because they could throw the ball away, they could throw it over the catcher's head, they could reach out and hit the ball. A lot of things can happen if you got to throw 4 pitches. And also, where's the pitcher at? It's all part of the strategy. But
no doubt.
Just like trying to throw a perfect game and then leaving in the 7th inning. with 13 strikeouts and only 80 pitches.
Anyway, you should check this out, especially the song Carly Please, which has a very charming video. And I'll ask you a question, Mark. How important do you think it is these days for bands to have a really, really well done videos? And it doesn't cost a whole lot. If you look at the Carly Please video, there's no way that thing costs a prohibitive amount. How important do you think it is, even in the power pop world?
I personally, I think it's fairly important. That's a good word for it. And as you said, it does not have to be an expensive, slick produced. I mean, I'd be happy if they were just sitting in their living room with their guitars, miming to whatever, and just giving me a glimpse of who they are and what they look like, and just kind of what they're just about. But if you want to take it to another level, tell a story, make it fun. It's a great little pastime. And many times, besides Spotify and Bandcamp, I'll go to YouTube and watch a video of a band just to hear the song and see what's on their mind. I think it's a real neat secondary part of the artistry of being a musician. Song first, melody, lyrics, and then if you want to do something with a video behind that, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and I think, for me, the prime example of a video that really helped elevate a band from the indie underground world to a little bit more of the mainstream is Stacy's Mom by Fountains of Wayne.
Right. Yeah.
That was a great, great video. And of course, I mean, first and foremost, the song has to be good. If you've got a bad song with an awesome video, people are still not going to necessarily buy the record. They may think, oh, this video's cool, but that may be it.
Yeah.
But as far as if you can marry an awesome song to a really well done video that meshes well with the song and makes people smile or laugh or feel good in any way, you may have a hit on your hands, and they did. I really believe that if not for that video, it wouldn't have been nearly as big a record as it was.
And I can vouch, coming from just a small Rachel Honor was in that video. Yeah.
Oh, that Tori's sister. Okay, John Borak, enough of that.
But
people are going to people don't know about baseball are going to say, oh, Tori Hunter, who's she? Because it looks like a girl's name, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
He's now identifying himself. Okay.
With Pop Detective, the Dahlmans had a lot of great pop songs, but I had a really good friend of mine, shout out to Derek Crucius, filmmaker, who did a few of the Dahlmans videos with me. We shot one in and around New York City and on the Brooklyn Bridge, and a couple here in South Jersey, and just wonderful capturing the moment of that time and that song and the band. And it's a great documentary of what was happening at the time, and I love that we did it. I'm glad that we did it. But yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah. No, and I actually saw some of those Dahlmans videos, and I mean they were nice. I mean, obviously it's there's also a matter of what you have behind you. I mean, Fountains of Wayne were already on a major label, so obviously they were able to get that video distributed, played on different TV stations. That's something that Trevor Blendower might not be able to do. But if the right person sees it, thinks it's cool, maybe he's going to get some label attention. And I think the songs on this album definitely warrant that. So
I think as much as an artist can do today, whether it's a Trevor Blendower who's not on a major label or anybody even mid-major big, the more you can do on all platforms, social media, whether it's even playing live or video or whatever it may be, the more you can do, the better it is for your chances of somebody, coming across it. And
yes.
If you don't know anything, I had one band on my label that just refused to do anything, and
really,
well, okay, it's not going to happen by magic. So, good luck with that. But
it's amazing what bands think sometimes.
Yeah.
That's true. They did.
True.
They were also on a major, I think, by then. So
Yeah.
that does help. But yeah, it's amazing what bands. I mean, I don't know where they get their notions about what they think they should or should not do. But I remember back in the 90s, a really, really cool young band who played IPO a few times. And I don't want to disparage them because they were great and they were really good people. But from what I heard, Sire Records heard their independent release CD and really dug them and wanted to potentially sign them, invited them for an audition. And apparently somebody told the band, don't show up for the audition. The label's going to think you're badass. Like they're going to respect you for saying like F you. They I don't know who told them that. Whoever that was should probably have their balls put in a vice.
They respected them all the way to obscurity.
I mean, it was a guy, which it probably was, because that sounds like something. Yeah, anything that has to do with ego, you can be sure a guy said it. Anyway, so anyway, they took this advice. They didn't show up, and Sire would never talk to them again.
There you go.
And this was a band who I think had the goods in many, many ways. So I don't know where bands sometimes get their info from. I think I remember telling you, and this is public knowledge, so I can say who the band is. The late 60s UK band Focal Point, who did a reunion show at IPO Liverpool about 10 years ago or so. One of the guys in the band wrote a book, which he obviously kept a diary because his memory of certain things that had happened back in the late 60s would have had to be beyond impeccable. I mean, he would have had to have an eidetic memory, which maybe he does. I don't know, but I think he kept a diary. Anyway, he talked about the time when I guess the band were walking around a park in the UK near London, or maybe in London, and they ran into Paul McCartney. And they introduced themselves and, said who they were. And, they were very cocky and confident. I think Paul admired that and said, well, go ahead and, send the cassette over to Apple. They didn't. They said, we didn't think we needed him. We were 20, we were young. We thought we were the best thing ever. So we just didn't do it. And, and I don't remember exactly what happened. It gets convoluted after that, but apparently Apple did hear the songs eventually, and they ended up getting a publishing deal, but never got their record released. Thank you, John Borak. Yeah, did he list everything he owned? Did he have a section on Aubrey? Did it matter to him?
He'd go all night.
Yeah, right. So anyway, so I mean, he said we were young and stupid, and we thought we were going to make it anyway. So we figured we didn't need him. Big mistake.
Good call. Yeah.
I mean, they did what label? It may have been one of the Cherry Red affiliated labels, or maybe it was Decca, because they did end up releasing a few singles on Decca. But Decca put out a CD of those singles and some unreleased stuff about 20 years ago or so, which is really great stuff. So if you happen to see Focal Point on on Discogs or eBay or wherever, if you see their CD, you should pick it up. But I mean, that was a potential star career just thrown out by being cocky.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, so if there are any, here's my advice. If there are any bands out there and you run into a famous person and he says, send a demo in or whatever it is, do it. If you have an audition from a label, show up. That's my advice. Okay.
There you heard it right here.
anything a label asks you to do, just do it. I mean, don't sign over your publishing in a contract or something.
Yeah,
But
let's talk to a lot of '50s artists there.
I mean, get your foot in the door before you start acting like a big shot. Oh man. Let me show you a couple of. Speaking of reissues, here are a few reissue LPs that I've gotten recently.
Oh wow, yeah.
Here's a band called 5 Day Rain. Let's see what it says. Fabulous UK psych and proto prog, which indeed it is. I'm trying to remember, but I think there was a guy from Fleur de Lis in it, which was an earlier band that had a song called, had a version of the Who's Circles that was really good.
Oh yeah, I know Silver Twin. Yeah,
there's another. See, this is a band. Well, we'll see what happens. But I'm going to say I contacted the main guy in Silver Twin, inviting them to IPO, Liverpool. Whatever it is, they couldn't do it. I recommended that they, if anything, they get a physical release on that album because it's really, really good. And he didn't respond to me about that. So either he figures they're going to get signed, or maybe they had some interest and he couldn't mention it, or he's just being stupid. Because that album needs to come out on vinyl, on CD, even on cassette, whatever. Get it out there, not just digital files.
Yeah,
I mean, these guys are really young and definitely really good, but digital is just not enough. It's great, as I said, but it's not enough. Yes, I do not. Yeah. Now, I don't dislike downloads. I think they're great, but that shouldn't be the only thing.
Shouldn't be the only thing.
Enough.
Yeah.
One might argue necessary but not sufficient. Anyway, 5 Day
in your stack. Yeah. What else was in there?
5 Day Rain is really good. Here's another UK pop psych band called Elmer Gantry's Velvet Opera.
Oh yeah. Fantastic. Yeah.
Hudson Ford.
Yeah.
Who eventually in the Straubs, and also released some really excellent albums on A&M in the mid 70s. This was a band they were in first. Not every song is particularly poppy. Some of them are a little bit more psych. Some of them kind of freak out a little bit. But when they do decide they want to be pop, they really do a nice job. One of the
absolutely right with that album. Yeah.
One of the more understated songs on the album, but really nice, is "What's the Point of Leaving?"
Yeah,
I love the bass line. It almost sounds like it's being played backwards, and just has kind of a George Harrison feel to it.
Yeah.
But this is another one I would highly recommend. It's on Gerson. It was really hard to get here Mike Stacks of Ugly Things was selling it exclusively.
Mm-hmm.
I missed out on that. They sold out before I got to them. But finally, I was able to get one directly from Gerson. And it's on purple vinyl. Well, there's two versions, purple and black. I got a purple one. That's what I wanted.
Yeah, you're right about that, though. Yeah, they could go from one extreme to another as far as real poppy and then real freak out. That's what I.
Here's another one that just came out. The reissue of Toy Matinee's album.
Oh, Toy Matinee, yeah.
I got number 408. I don't know exactly out of what. I think only 1,000 actually. But this originally came out in 1990 on Reprise, and it has Kelvin Gilbert, who sadly is no longer with us.
Right.
But what a great record this is, especially the first 5 tracks. Those are my favorite. After that, it sort of loses a little luster for me. Yeah. But I'm sure other people would say, no, the whole album's great.
That's really good.
I guess it did come out in, I don't remember what country, not in the U.S. on vinyl. It came out on CD here. That was right around the time when the U.S. was ceasing doing vinyl releases.
Yeah, I got the CD of that, but there's been a lot of talk about that album, and as you said, there's only 1,000, I think, is all that were printed. There's not a lot of them out there.
It's kind of like those new music albums that were reissued, which both you and I got. And thank you for telling me about Warp. I really didn't think they were going to do that one.
Yeah. No, I guess that they, if they're going to do the artist catalog, even though Warp was not, what the first two were, I guess you had to still put it out to complete it.
Yeah, and speaking of which, if there's anybody out there who has any connection to a label, one of my all-time favorite albums, well, certainly in my top 100, is a UK band called Sailor. They had an album called Dress for Drowning in 1980. And prior to that, their stuff was, well, it was fun. They used the calliope, I guess. They had some big hits in the UK called like Glass of Champagne and Girls, Girls, Girls.
Mm-hmm.
They were a lot of fun. Some of their songs were really good, but nothing really struck me. Then they did a little bit of a personnel change, invited a woman to come on to sing co-lead, and they changed their sound completely to something a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit cheeky, but in a more highbrow sort of way.
Right.
Little bit of a even show tuney Broadway feel, but it would be first and foremost it was pop. That album's on Columbia. The other albums were on I don't remember what were they on Epic before that. At any rate, the last album has never been reissued on CD. All the other ones have, and in fact more than once. So anyone out there, Sailor, Dress for Drowning, put it out. And with that note, I think we've hit our bewitching hour.
Time to put us out.
Yeah. So hopefully everyone had fun. Again,
yeah.
My huge apologies for kind of messing up a little bit and giving the wrong time in one of my correspondences with Louise Goffin's assistants. Unfortunately, that's the one she chose to pay attention to. I did not know that. Yeah. And there you go. So we will reschedule her at some point, just as we did Dwight Twilley that one time when he ended up not being able to make it at the last minute. So, yeah. So it's all good. And next week.
Thank you, Barry. Appreciate it.
Yeah, maybe we'll certainly thank you guys. We'll certainly do more of these. I mean, they're a lot of fun, and we don't have to really do much planning. When we interview people, we always have some questions in mind beforehand, and right. Then of course the interview runs a certain, in a certain path, and we try to follow it at that point. We don't. Thank you. We don't stick to a prepared list of questions. We may riff off that, but anyway, here things are just really off the cuff, and I love it. I really do. And that was actually our original plan. We were going to do just us every week, and
with the occasional
guest. And then suddenly it was like, let's get more guests. But whatever. This was fun. Next week we are going to have some guests.
Yeah. And we're gonna have an interview with two of the original members of Artful Dodger, and they haven't been interviewed, any of them, in quite a long time. But lead singer and co-writer of a lot of the tunes, Billy Palicelli, and the bass player and really the archivist of the band, Steve Cooper. So Palicelli and Cooper of Artful Dodger next Wednesday. Tune in for that. That should be quite a cool interview.
Full disclosure. Full disclosure, there's a chance I may not be able to be there for that interview. It's going to be during IPO Chicago, not during the shows themselves, a little bit beforehand, but depending upon what time I need to be at the venue. Plus, also, I may have to go pick up my wife, Rena, who will be flying in on that day to join me. If I can't do it, certainly Mr. John Borak, who I've already spoken with about this, is invited to be Mark's co-host for that week. So we'll keep you all apprised as to whether it'll be me or John.
Yeah, you're right. Very big in Northeast Ohio. Yep. Yeah.
Then the following week, we're on May 4th, we're very excited to announce that a really cool married couple, both of whom are musicians, and we love what both of them have done. The husband in the couple is one of the main men of, and now I'm having another senior moment,
Philly band
Wanderlust. Oh, God. Only now. God, I hope this isn't pre-seen.
I walked.
I don't think so.
No.
But anyway,
You got a lot on your mind, man. You got IPO Chicago flying out tomorrow, so
I really do.
band Wanderlust. Yep.
Yes. So one of the main men of the band Wanderlust, along with Scott Sachs, and he's also put out a lot of excellent solo records, and we're very glad to have as one of the dynamic duo Rob Bonfiglio.
Yep.
And then, of course, his wife, who many of you know or know of, one of the main people of the band Wilson Phillips, with her sister Wendy and with China Phillips, John Phillips' daughter, had huge hits back in the day. And she also, of course, Wilson. She is Brian Wilson's eldest daughter. She's a hoot. Besides, she had her own talk show for a bit, so you know she is not shy about sharing her feelings, and like I said, it's really funny. And we're glad to have Carney Wilson along with Rob Bonfiglio on Material Issues on Wednesday, May 4th. And after that, we'll see. We're trying to actually reschedule Louise Goffin for May 11th. Then the following week, I'll be in Liverpool doing IPO. We're going to see if we can set up something there.
Yeah, it'd be kind of cool to do something live to say hi live from the cavern if the internet connection will allow that to happen. So stay tuned.
Wi-Fi has been getting better and better every year. I mean, I can only speak for 3 years ago, 2019, but it was the best it ever was.
But we'll let you know. You know, as long as you
2022, it'll be great.
The if you join the Facebook group here or you subscribe to the YouTube channel, then you'll get the updates. We'll tell you what's happening and what's coming up. So make sure you do that and tell all your friends to subscribe and join. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll be able to work something out to make it happen from the cavern, even if it's only a few minutes of it.
All you need is love.
Which yeah, let me close with this. And you'll know the answer to this, and we just gave you a clue. What is the one thing that is I don't want to say for sure, but what's the one thing that's probably unique about New Music's Warp album?
What's the one thing that's unique?
Or maybe unique. I can't think of any other albums offhand that have done this, unless they're specific compilations designed specifically to do it.
Oh, you mean with All You Need Is Love?
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 songs in a row called All You Need Is Love, one being a cover of the Beatles tune and one being an original.
Yeah. Okay.
It sounds nothing like, not well. I mean, it kind of lifts a little, but that's about it. Well, of course, this is the same band who had This World of Water on their first album, and then This World of Walter on their second. You know, Tony Mansfield's a pretty cheeky guy.
Yeah, and very talented guy.
Yeah. Anyway, let's let you get back to your afternoon or evening or night, and I want to thank everyone for listening.
Yeah, indeed.
Again, my apologies for not having Ms. Goffin on, but we'll get her back. And so tomorrow morning I leave for Chicago. I can't wait to start the shows. And
best of luck with it, David. I hope the shows go great. Hope the weather's great. And we'll see everybody next Wednesday with Artful Dodger here on Material Issues.
Absolutely.
Great evening.
Great doing this with you again, Mark. And,
as always, David.
Have an excellent night, and everyone, we'll see you next week.
All right.